The galaxy had never taken humans seriously. For 200 years, humanity had been the youngest member of the Galactic Concord, a group of 12 ancient alien species who had kept peace for 3,000 years. The other species were older, stronger, and far more advanced. They looked at humans the way adults look at children playing with toys. Humans were useful sometimes, but never important. Their ships were slower than everyone else. Their weapons were weaker. Their small corner of space was barely worth noticing. Ambassador. Chen Weilin had spent her entire career listening to alien diplomats speak down to her. They smiled politely while treating Earth like a minor inconvenience. They gave humanity the worst trade deals and the smallest voice in every meeting. But Chen had learned to be patient. She knew something the other species did not. She knew what was coming. The meeting at Harmony Prime was supposed to be ordinary. Representatives from all 12 species had gathered at the massive, neutral station floating in empty space between their territories. They expected to discuss trade routes and border disputes. They expected another boring day of politics. They did not expect what Chen Weilin was about to show them. Chen stood at the center of the great chamber, surrounded by alien faces of every shape and color. The Velkari towered above her, their forearms crossed in disapproval. The crystalline Sharath glittered under the lights, their bodies made of living glass. The insectoid Krethva clicked their mandibles impatiently. All of them looked at the human ambassador with the same expression they always wore. Polite boredom, distinguished representatives, Chen said, her voice calm and steady. Earth has a gift for the Concord, a demonstration of our commitment to galactic security. The Velkari High Arbiter, a massive creature named Kethros, let out a rumbling laugh. Another human patrol ship, perhaps? How generous! The other aliens chuckled. Chen Weilin did not react. She simply lifted her hand and pressed a single button on her communicator, outside the station. Empty space suddenly changed. A ship appeared from nowhere, dropping out of a cloaking field that should not have existed. The vessel was enormous. 17 kilometers of black metal stretched across the void, blocking out the stars behind it. The whole seemed to absorb light itself, giving the ship an appearance of living shadow. It had no visible weapons, no obvious engines, nothing that looked like any ship the galaxy had ever seen. The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien in the room rushed to the viewing windows. They pressed against the glass, staring at the impossible vessel floating outside. The Velkari High Arbiter had stopped laughing. His four hands gripped the window frame so hard that the metal bent. "What is this?" he demanded. "What have you built?" Chen Weilin walked slowly to stand beside him. "This is the Prometheus Ascending. Humanity's answer to a question the Concord has been too afraid to ask." On the bridge of the Prometheus Ascending, Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched the chaos unfolding on the station through her neural link. She could feel every system of her ship as if it were part of her own body. The connection was instant and perfect. When she thought about moving the ship, it moved. When she wondered about the station's shields, she knew their exact strength without checking any screens. Her crew numbered only 847 people. A ship this size should have needed 50,000. But human technology had evolved in secret, growing far beyond what the galaxy believed possible. The Neuralink system allowed each crew member to control systems that would have required hundreds of operators on any other vessel. The ship did not just respond to commands. It anticipated them. It thought alongside its crew. Admiral Tanaka was a small woman with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had spent 30 years in Earth's space navy, watching humanity get pushed around by older species. She had buried friends who died in ships that were never good enough. She had sworn that one day, Earth would have something that made the galaxy take notice. That day had finally come. The Velkari High Arbiter's voice came through the communication channel, demanding to know what the ship could do. He wanted a demonstration. He expected to see some impressive weapons fire, perhaps a shield test, something he could measure and compare to his own fleet. Tanaka smiled. "Show them," she said quietly. The Prometheus Ascending vanished on the station. The aliens gasped as the massive ship disappeared completely. But before they could speak, The ship reappeared, not in one place, in 7 places. 7 copies of the Prometheus Ascending surrounded Harmony Prime, each one perfectly solid, each one exactly identical. The ship existed in quantum superposition, occupying multiple points in space at the same moment. This was not faster than light travel. This was not a trick of holograms or sensor ghosts. The Prometheus Ascending was genuinely everywhere at once. High Arbiter Kethros stepped back from the window. For the first time in his 300-year life, he felt something he had almost forgotten existed. Fear. Pure. Cold fear of a species he had dismissed as children. "This is impossible," the Sharath ambassador whispered, her crystal body flickering with confused light. "No technology can do this. The laws of physics do not allow it." "Your laws," Chen Weylan said softly. "Not ours." The Krethva ambassador was already speaking rapidly into a communicator, sending urgent messages back to his homeworld. The other species were doing the same. Within minutes, news of the Prometheus Ascending would spread across the entire galaxy. Everything would change. Ambassador Chen looked out at her people's greatest creation. She remembered all the years of insults and dismissal. She remembered being told that humans were too young, too weak, too primitive to matter. She remembered smiling politely while her heart burned with determination. Now, the galaxy would learn the truth. Humans were not weak. They had simply been waiting, building, preparing for a threat that the older species had tried to bury and forget. A threat that was coming whether anyone wanted to believe it or not. The Prometheus Ascending hung in space like a silent promise. Its message was clear to everyone watching. Humanity was no longer a child among giants, and the giants had no idea what to do about it. Admiral Tanaka brought the ship back to a single location and held position. She could feel the fear radiating from the station through her sensors. Part of her enjoyed it. After 2 centuries of being treated as less than nothing, humans finally had the respect they deserved, but another part of her felt sad. She knew what was coming next. The older species would not simply accept this new reality. They would fight against it. They would try to destroy what they could not control. And when the real enemy finally arrived, she wondered if the galaxy would have torn itself apart before it ever had a chance to survive. The ancient treaty that had kept peace for 3,000 years suddenly felt very fragile indeed. The emergency session of the Galactic Concord began 48 hours after the Prometheus Ascending revealed itself to the galaxy. Every species sent their highest leaders. Every channel carried the debate live. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds stopped their daily lives to watch what would happen next. The Great Council Chamber on Harmony Prime had never been so tense. The 12 seats arranged in a circle were filled with the most powerful beings in known space. But for the first time in 3,000 years, they were not discussing trade or territory. They were discussing survival. Their own survival against a species they had always treated as weak. The Valkyrie High Arbiter Kethros spoke first. His deep voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Humanity has violated the spirit of every treaty we have ever signed. This weapon they have built threatens the balance of power that has kept peace for millennia. It must be destroyed." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the alien representatives. The Sharath ambassador, her crystal form pulsing with angry red light, rose to speak. "We demand that humanity surrender this technology immediately. It should belong to the Concord, not to one species alone." The Krethva representative clicked his mandibles rapidly. "I propose something simpler. Earth must be quarantined. No ships in or out until the Prometheus Ascending is dismantled, piece by piece. If the humans refuse, we treat them as enemies of galactic peace." Ambassador Chen Weylan sat quietly in the human seat, the smallest chair in the chamber, the one furthest from the center. She listened to each species call for the destruction of everything her people had built. She watched them speak as if humanity was not even in the room, as if humans were criminals who had no right to defend themselves. When the accusations finally stopped, Chen stood up slowly. Every eye turned to her. The chamber fell silent. "You speak of peace," she said, "but you do not mean peace. You mean control? You have controlled humanity for 200 years. You gave us the worst territories. You denied us fair trade. You laughed at our ships and called us children. And now that we have built something you cannot control, you call us criminals. High Arbiter, Kethros slammed his fist on his podium. You dare speak to us this way? We are the elder species. We have guided this galaxy since before your kind climbed down from trees. Chen did not flinch. Yes, you are older. And in all those years of wisdom, what have you done about the signals? The chamber went completely still. Several ambassadors exchanged nervous glances. The Sharath ambassador's glow flickered uncertainly. What signals? The Krethva representative asked, but his voice wavered. Chen pressed a button on her console. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a map of the galaxy. Red dots began appearing at the edges, dozens of them, then hundreds. These are ancient sensor buoys, Chen explained, placed by civilizations that died 1,000,000 years ago. Your own archives mention them, buried in files that require the highest clearance to access. These buoys were designed to warn of one thing: the return of something your ancestors called the Devourers. The name sent visible shudders through several ambassadors. High Arbiter Kethros gripped his podium, his face suddenly pale. 3 months ago, Chen continued, these buoys began transmitting again. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, something is waking up in the void between galaxies. Something that destroyed entire civilizations overnight. Something that your ancestors were so afraid of that they built warning systems across the entire galaxy before they died. She looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who had dismissed humanity for so long. You knew about this. Your governments knew. And instead of warning the galaxy, instead of preparing, you buried the information and hoped the threat would never come. The silence stretched on. No one could meet her eyes. Humanity found out anyway, Chen said. We accessed the archives. We decoded the ancient warnings. And we decided that if the elder species would not protect the galaxy, we would do it ourselves. The Prometheus Ascending was not built to threaten you. It was built to save you. High Arbiter, Kethros recovered his voice. Even if what you say is true, this weapon is too dangerous. No single species should have such power. And yet here we are, Chen replied, because no other species was willing to pay the price of building it. The debate continued for hours. Species argued back and forth about treaties and power and ancient threats, but in the end, fear won over wisdom. The elder species could not accept that humanity had surpassed them. They could not believe that the Devourers were truly returning. It was easier to attack what they could see than prepare for what they could not. The vote was 11-1. The Prometheus Ascending was declared illegal under galactic law. Admiral Yuki Tanaka was ordered to surrender her vessel, to Joint Coalition Fleet. Humanity was given 72 hours to comply or face the combined military might of 11 species. Ambassador Chen Weilin listened to the verdict without expression. When the High Arbiter finished reading the demands, she stood one final time. You have made your choice, she said. Now hear ours. She pressed a button, and her face appeared on every screen, every channel, every communication device in the known galaxy. Billions of beings stopped to listen as the human ambassador spoke. We built the Prometheus Ascending to save everyone. Every species. Every world. Every child in every corner of this galaxy. We did not ask for permission because we knew it would be denied. We did not share our technology because we knew it would be stolen. We acted alone because no one else would act at all. Her voice grew harder. Now you threaten us. You call our protection a crime. You demand we disarm while ancient horrors wake in the darkness. So let me be clear about what happens next. Chen looked directly into the camera, and across the galaxy, billions felt as if she was staring straight at them. The Prometheus Ascending will not surrender. Earth will not submit. And if you choose to make humanity your enemy, you will learn exactly why you should have remained our friends. The transmission ended. The chamber erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted at each other, demanding action, demanding war. In the middle of it all, the human chair sat empty. Ambassador Chen Weilin had already left. Somewhere in space, Admiral Yuki Tanaka received the news. She had expected this outcome. Part of her had hoped for something better, but she had prepared for the worst. "All hands," she said quietly through the neural link, her words reaching every mind on the ship. "Battle stations. The coalition is coming, and we are going to show them why humanity is not afraid." The Prometheus ascending powered up its impossible engines and began to move. The countdown to war had begun. The coalition fleet assembled in the neutral zone was the largest military force gathered in 3,000 years. 4,000 warships from 11 different species stretched across space in every direction. Valkyrie battlecruisers the size of cities, Sharath crystal destroyers that shimmered like deadly stars, Krethma swarm carriers filled with thousands of fighter craft, ships of every design, every weapon type, every technology the galaxy had ever developed. Sovereign Admiral Kethros commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He had led Valkyrie forces for 200 years. He had never lost a battle. Looking at the overwhelming power surrounding him, he could not imagine how this day would be any different. The Prometheus ascending sat alone in the center of the formation. One ship against 4,000. The coalition had surrounded it completely, cutting off every escape route. There was nowhere for the humans to run. Human vessel Kethros broadcast on all channels. "You are surrounded by the combined might of the Galactic Concord. Surrender immediately, and your crew will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Admiral Yuki Tanaka's voice came back calm and steady. "Sovereign Admiral, I respect your service and your courage, but I will not surrender my ship. I suggest you withdraw your fleet before anyone gets hurt." Laughter erupted across the coalition communication channels. A single human ship was telling 4,000 warships to retreat. The arrogance was almost admirable. Kethros shook his massive head. "So be it. All ships, fire." The void lit up like a sun being born. Thousands of weapons discharged at once. Energy beams of every color. Missiles by the tens of thousands. Plasma torpedoes and gravity bombs and weapons that had no names in human language. Enough firepower to crack a moon poured toward the Prometheus, ascending from every direction. The crew of the human ship did not panic. They did not even brace for impact. Through their neural links, they felt Admiral Tanaka's calm confidence flowing through the entire vessel. They trusted her completely. The weapon struck the Prometheus, ascending, and nothing happened. The ship's hull was made from matter harvested from the heart of a neutron star, compressed and shaped by technologies that humanity had developed in absolute secrecy. It was the densest, hardest material ever created by any species. The combined firepower of 4,000 warships hit that hole and simply stopped. The energy was absorbed. The missiles detonated uselessly against a surface harder than diamond. The Prometheus ascending did not even shake. Silence fell across the coalition fleet. Sensors reported the impossible data. The human ship was completely undamaged. "Impossible," Kethros whispered. "All ships continue firing. Full power. Everything you have." The second volley was even more intense than the first. Every ship in the coalition pushed their weapons to maximum output. The space around the Prometheus ascending became a storm of pure destruction that would have vaporized planets. "Admiral." Tanaka watched the assault through her neural link. She felt a distant sadness. These beings were so afraid of what they did not understand. They would rather destroy humanity than accept that someone might be stronger than them. "Activate the Prometheus field," she ordered. Deep within the ship, generators that bent the laws of physics came to life. A sphere of altered reality expanded outward from the hull, growing larger and larger until it touched the nearest coalition ship's dot inside that sphere. The rules of the universe changed. Energy weapons stopped working. The particles that carried their destructive power simply refused to move in harmful ways. Missile engines shut down as the chemistry that powered them became impossible. Engines failed. Shields collapsed. Targeting systems went blind. Every piece of technology that relied on the normal laws of physics found those laws rewritten, one by one. The coalition ships began to drift. 4,000 vessels, the greatest fleet ever assembled, became 4,000 pieces of floating metal, helpless, defenseless, unable to even call for help as their communication. Systems died. Kethro sat on his darkened bridge, emergency lights casting red shadows across his face. His flagship, the pride of the Velkari Navy, was dead in space. Around him, his crew struggled to understand what had happened. Their instruments showed nothing wrong. Everything simply did not work. Admiral Tanaka's voice came through on a channel that somehow still functioned. Her words reached every ship in the disabled fleet. "I could destroy every one of you right now. Your species would become footnotes in history. Everything you have built, everything you believe in, would end in the next 5 minutes." The silence across the fleet was absolute. 4,000 crews held their breath. That is not who we are. That is not why we built this ship. Humanity does not exist to conquer. We exist to protect. Even those who hate us. Even those who would destroy us if they could. On the Prometheus ascending, shuttle bays opened. Hundreds of small rescue craft launched into the void, piloted by human crews in emergency suits. They spread out through the disabled fleet, heading toward ships that were showing signs of life support. Failure. On a Krethva carrier, the atmospheric systems had shut down. 3,000 insectoid beings were slowly suffocating in the dark. A human shuttle docked with their vessel, and emergency oxygen began flowing through temporary connections. Human engineers worked frantically to restore basic life support, while Krethva soldiers watched in confusion. On a Sharath destroyer, the crystal beings were dying from heat as their cooling systems failed. Humans attached external radiators to the hull, drawing away the deadly warmth. Sharath, who had voted to quarantine Earth, watched as human hands saved their lives. Ship after ship received help. Humans pulled wounded aliens from damaged compartments. Human doctors treated injuries caused by systems failures. Human engineers restored enough power for basic survival across dozens of vessels that had been minutes from disaster. Kethros watched all of this through a viewport that still functioned. He saw human shuttles moving through his helpless fleet, not firing weapons, not taking prisoners, but saving lives. Saving the lives of beings who had just tried to kill them. A human rescue team docked with the Eternal Dominion. They restored partial life support and left emergency supplies. As they prepared to leave, the team leader, a young woman with kind eyes, stopped at the bridge doorway. "Your crew is safe now, Sovereign Admiral. Medical teams will check on everyone within the hour." Kethros found his voice. "Why? We tried to destroy you. Why save us?" The young woman smiled. "Because someday soon, something terrible is coming. And when it does, we are going to need every ship, every crew, every species working together to survive. We cannot afford to be enemies. None of us can." She left before he could respond. When the Prometheus field finally withdrew, the Coalition fleet slowly came back to life. Systems restarted. Engines powered up. But no one fired a weapon. No one moved to attack. Admiral Tanaka broadcast one final message before departing. "Remember this day. Remember that we could have ended you and we chose mercy. When the darkness comes, remember who your friends really are." The Prometheus ascending vanished into the stars, leaving 4,000 ships floating in silence. Sovereign Admiral Kethros sat alone for a long time, thinking about everything he had believed and everything he had just witnessed. Humans were not weak. They never had been. And he was beginning to understand that strength was not about the power to destroy. It was about the choice not to. 3 weeks passed in uneasy silence. The Coalition fleet returned to their homeworlds with stories no one wanted to believe. The Galactic Concord held emergency meetings that went nowhere. Some species demanded another attack on humanity. Others whispered that perhaps the humans had been right all along. No one could agree on anything. Then the Devourers came. The first warning came from the edge of known space. From sensor stations that had watched the void for centuries, without seeing anything unusual. One moment the screens showed empty darkness. The next moment, something impossible filled them. The creature that emerged from between galaxies was not truly a ship, though it moved through space like one. It was a living thing, a biological nightmare spanning 1,000 kilometers of writhing, twisting horror. Its surface was covered with structures that might have been eyes or mouths or something that had no name in any language. It pulsed with a hungry light that hurt to look at. Simply seeing it on a screen made beings feel a deep wrongness in their souls. The Devourers had returned after 1,000,000 years of silence. Ancient records described them only in fragments. They were the end of civilizations. They did not simply kill or conquer. They consumed. They fed on life itself, on the energy that made living things different from dead matter. Where they passed, nothing remained but empty space and a silence that seemed to scream forever. The creature headed straight for the Shereth homeworld. The crystalline beings sent out their entire defense fleet. 2,000 beautiful ships made of living crystal met the Devourer at the edge of their star system. They opened fire with weapons that had protected their people for 10,000 years. The Devourer did not slow down. It did not try to dodge or defend itself. It simply absorbed every attack, every beam of energy, every explosive, every weapon the Sherath could throw made the creature stronger. It fed on their firepower the way a hungry animal feeds on meat. Then it reached the defense. Fleet ships did not explode when the Devourer touched them. They did not break apart. They simply emptied. The crystal holes remained intact, but everything inside was gone. Every crew member, every power source, every spark of energy that had made the ships alive was drained away in seconds. 2,000 vessels became 2,000 empty, shells drifting in the void. The Devourer continued toward the planet. The Sherath homeworld was ancient and beautiful. Crystal forests had grown there for 10,000 years, shimmering towers of living glass that sang in the solar wind. 18 billion beings lived among those forests, their bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the landscape. The Asphyra reached the atmosphere and descended across the galaxy. Every species with communication technology watched the horror unfold. They saw the crystal forests go dark. They heard the screaming transmissions from Sherath cities as the creature passed over them. They watched the beautiful world that had stood for countless millennia turn gray and silent in a matter of hours. When the Devourer finally rose back into space, there was nothing left. 18 billion lives had been consumed. The crystal forests were dust. The ancient cities were empty tombs. A civilization that had existed since before humanity discovered fire was simply gone, and then the sensors detected more signals from the void between galaxies. The first Devourer was not alone. More were waking. More were coming. The Galactic Concord fell into chaos. The Valkyrie recalled all their fleets to defend their homeworld. The Krethfa began evacuating their outer colonies. Every species turned inward, thinking only of their own survival. Forgetting that they had ever been allies at all, the remaining species tried to fight back. A combined fleet of 500 ships intercepted a smaller Devourer near the Krethfa border. They used every weapon they had. They tried new tactics, new technologies, everything they could think of. Nothing worked. The Devourers absorbed energy attacks and grew stronger. Physical weapons passed through their bodies without causing harm. Shields meant nothing to creatures that existed partially outside normal space. The fleet was destroyed in minutes. 500 ships reduced to empty husks, floating in the eternal dark. On Earth, Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched the disaster unfold from the bridge of the Prometheus ascending. Her crew was silent, their minds linked together through the neural network, sharing the same terrible images. They saw civilizations dying. They saw species running in fear. They saw everything they had warned about coming true. Admiral, her executive officer, said quietly, "We are receiving a transmission. Priority channel. It is from Sovereign Admiral Kethros." Tanaka closed her eyes for a moment. She had expected this call. She had hoped it would come sooner, before so many had died. But pride was a powerful thing, and the elder species had too much of it. Put it through. The Valkyrie commander's face appeared on screen. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago. His eyes carried the weight of everything he had witnessed. "Admiral Tanaka." His voice was rough with emotion. I am not calling on behalf of the Concord. They are too frightened to agree on anything. I am calling because I have no other choice." He paused, struggling with words that his pride desperately wanted to hold back. "Please," he said finally, "help us." Tanaka felt no satisfaction in hearing those words. She felt only sorrow for all the lives that had been lost while the galaxy argued about politics and power. "We were always going to help," she said. "We were just waiting for you to ask." She turned to her crew, feeling their determination flowing through the neural link. They had trained for this moment. They had built their ship for this purpose. Everything humanity had sacrificed, every secret they had kept, every weapon they had developed in the darkness had been leading to this. "Set course for the Krethva defensive line," Tanaka ordered. "Maximum speed. And broadcast on all channels that the Prometheus Ascending is on its way." The great ship turned toward the battle, its engines powered by technologies that should not have been possible. Pushed it through space faster than any vessel had ever traveled. Behind it, hope traveled on every frequency, reaching species who had given up and telling them that humanity was coming. The first, Devourer, had already reached the Krethva border. It was tearing through their remaining defense fleet, feeding on ship after ship, while thousands of beings died. The creature was larger now, grown fat on the lives it had consumed. It sensed the Prometheus Ascending arriving and turned toward this new prey. It felt the concentrated life force aboard the human vessel, all those minds linked together. All that delicious energy waiting to be devoured. The creature had destroyed civilizations beyond counting. It had fed on species that no longer had names. It had never encountered anything that could stop it. It was about to learn that. Humanity was different. The Prometheus Ascending dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Krethva defensive line. What awaited them was devastation beyond description. 100 Allied ships were scattered across space. Some fighting, some dying, some already empty shells drifting without power. The Devourer moved among them like a predator in a field of prey. Feeding on everything it touched, Admiral Tanaka took one look at the chaos and made her decision. "All Allied vessels, this is the Prometheus Ascending. Withdraw immediately and begin civilian evacuations. We will handle this." Across the battlefield, captains from a dozen species stared at their screens in disbelief. One human ship against a creature that had already consumed entire civilizations. It was suicide. It was madness. But it was also hope. And hope was all they had left. The surviving ships began pulling back, their damaged engines straining toward the inhabited worlds behind them. Shuttles and transports were already launching from planetary surfaces, carrying millions of refugees away from the approaching horror. Every minute the Prometheus Ascending could buy them meant more lives saved. The Devourer noticed the massive human vessel and turned toward it with terrible hunger. The creature had grown enormous after feeding on so many ships and worlds. Its body stretched across space like a living nightmare, pulsing with stolen energy. Tanaka felt her ship through the neural link, felt her crew's hearts beating alongside her own. They knew what she was planning. They had known since the day they signed up for this mission that it might end this way. "Begin evacuation," she ordered. "All crew to emergency life pods." "That is a direct order." Her executive officer, Commander Chen, shook his head. "Admiral, we will not leave you." "You will," Tanaka said firmly, "because what I am about to do cannot be done with a crew aboard. The Prometheus field will not protect you from this." The secret at the heart of the Prometheus Ascending was something Earth had never revealed to anyone. Deep within the ship, surrounded by layers of the densest matter ever created, a contained singularity waited. A black hole the size of an atom, stabilized by technologies that had taken 40 years to perfect. The singularity powered every impossible system on the ship. The quantum drive, the Prometheus field, everything. But it could do one more thing. It could be released. A black hole, no matter how small, was a force of nature beyond comprehension. If the containment failed, if the singularity was allowed to expand, it would consume everything within reach, including anything that had fed on stolen energy, including something that existed partially outside normal space. The Prometheus engine was humanity's final weapon. A weapon that could only be used once. Tanaka felt her crew leaving the ship through the neural link, their minds disconnecting one by one as they boarded life pods. She felt their love, their gratitude, their desperate wish that there was another way. She sent back her own feelings, pride in serving with them, confidence that they would survive, hope that they would tell the galaxy what humanity had done. The last life pod launched. Tanaka was alone on a ship meant for 800, connected to every system through the neural link. Feeling the vessel around her like a second body, the devourer was close now. She could sense its hunger through the ship's sensors, a bottomless emptiness that wanted to consume everything she was. The creature reached out with tendrils of dark energy, trying to drain the Prometheus ascending the way it had drained so many others. The neutron star hull held. The Prometheus field pushed back. But Tanaka knew she could not hold out forever. No defense was perfect. Eventually, the creature would find a way through. She drove the ship forward, straight into the devourer's mass. The creature had never experienced this before. Its prey had always run, always fought from a distance, always tried to escape. This human vessel was charging directly into its body, pushing deeper and deeper into its living substance. Tanaka felt the ship shuddering around, her alien biology pressed against the hull. Warning lights flashed across every system. The Prometheus field was failing, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of hostile energy surrounding it. She reached the center of the creature, the place where its core pulsed with all the stolen lives it had consumed. The place where releasing the singularity would cause maximum damage. For everyone, she whispered. For everyone who ever died because the galaxy was too afraid to protect itself. For everyone who will live because we were not. She gave the order. The containment field around the singularity began to dissolve. The black hole, free for the first time in 40 years, started to expand. At first it was the size of a coin, then a ball, then a car, then a house, then something much larger. For one fraction of a second, a new star was born in the void. The energy release was beyond measurement. Light brighter than a supernova exploded outward in every direction. Then the light collapsed inward. The singularity pulled everything back, eating the very energy it had just released. The devourer, caught at ground zero, could not escape. Its impossible body was pulled apart atom by atom. Its stolen energy was stripped away and fed to the hungry darkness, the creature that had destroyed civilizations, that had existed for millions of years, that had believed itself invincible, screamed across subspace as it was erased from existence, and across the galaxy, every other devourer felt that scream. The creatures were linked together, sharing thoughts and hunger across distances beyond imagination. When their leader died, when its connection was suddenly and violently severed, the feedback destroyed them. One by one, the remaining devourers fell silent. Their bodies stopped moving. They began to drift, lifeless husks floating in the eternal dark. The threat was over. When the light faded, the Prometheus ascending was gone. The greatest ship humanity had ever built had sacrificed itself to save everything. Only debris remained where it had been. Fragments of neutron star metal spinning slowly in the void. A Valkyrie rescue ship was first to reach the life pods. Sovereign Admiral Kethros had personally commanded the mission, pushing his vessel to its limits to reach the evacuation site as fast as possible. His crew pulled survivors from the pods one by one, counting, hoping, praying in ways their species had not prayed in centuries. They found Admiral Yuki Tanaka in the last pod. She was unconscious but alive. Her neural link had burned out in the final moment of connection, but the emergency systems had saved her life. Kethros carried her to the medical bay himself, refusing to let anyone else touch her. He stayed by her side until she woke. Her first words were a question. "Did we get them all?" Kethros nodded, unable to speak at first. When he found his voice, it was rough with emotion. "All of them. Every devourer in the galaxy is dead. Your plan worked." Tanaka closed her eyes and smiled. "Good." The Galactic Concord held a vote 3 days later. This time, every species voted the same way. The resolution declaring the Prometheus ascending illegal was overturned unanimously. In its place, a new declaration was issued. The ship was recognized as legendary, a vessel that had saved every living being in the known galaxy. A memorial station was authorized to be built at the site of its sacrifice, a place where all species could come to remember. Admiral Yuki Tanaka was offered honors from every government in the Concord. She refused them all, except one. She asked that the names of her entire crew be carved into the memorial, along with a simple inscription. They did not fight for glory. They fought for you. On Earth, the celebration lasted for weeks. Humanity had proven itself in a way that could never be forgotten. They were no longer the youngest species, the weakest species, the children of the galaxy. They were the species that had faced the darkness when everyone else ran away, and in the deepest shipyards of Earth, hidden from all outside eyes, construction had already begun on a new vessel. The Prometheus Ascending was gone, but the knowledge that built it remained. The scientists and engineers who had spent their lives creating the impossible were already working on something greater, because Admiral Tanaka had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Humans do not build weapons to conquer. They build them to protect. And they will always, always build something new when the need arises. The galaxy was safe. But the void was vast, and who knew what other threats waited in the darkness beyond? Whatever came next, humanity would be ready.